Good morning, everyone. Children's Trust of South Carolina is a statewide organization focused on prevention of child abuse and neglect, provide funding, resources, and training to help local partners build strong families and positive childhood. The mission of the Children's Trust is strengthening families, organizations, and communities to prevent child abuse and neglect. The vision is a South Carolina where every child thrives. Setting intentions. As we get started, I would like everyone to take a moment to ground themselves in their own learning intentions for our time together. Consider why you're here today, what you hope to learn, and what you can do to be present. You will not be asked to share these out loud, but I want everyone to know your why today and what you can do to make sure that you get the most of this session. I'd like to equip you with some background knowledge about adverse childhood experiences, their impact, and perhaps most importantly, what you can do to prevent or mitigate ACEs throughout building resilience. The agenda, we will cover three main topics: adverse childhood experiences, brain development, resilience. Adverse childhood experiences will review the ACE study, how it started, and what was found. Then we'll go into brain development, which is the basic understanding of the neuroscience, the impact of toxic shock. Resilience, strategic to the resilience through positive childhood experiences and protective factors. As you listen to this information, I want you to look through three lenses. One, the childhood lens. This lens to be the lens that we talk about childhood experiences. Use this information to understand what a child may have already experienced by the time that you interact with them and how you want to shape their experiences moving forward. Lens 2, we also want to counsel. This information can shape our understanding of what caregivers have experienced in their lives, in addition to the role that they're playing when they're supporting children that they care for. Lens 3, personal. Our own experiences must also be considered. We want to acknowledge our experiences, how they have shaped us. Then we want to think about how we can use this information to shape our work and how we can support both children and parents the way that reaches the goals of healthy development and thriving families. Talking about childhood experiences. Before we can begin, we want to acknowledge that this subject can be heavy. I don't expect anyone to discuss personal experiences or to give specific examples. Talking or listening about childhood experiences can be tough sometimes. With that in mind, we want to be sure to state here, please take care of yourself. As we cover these topics today, give yourself the space and grace you may need while in this training class, whatever that looks like for you. This will also be an overview of a lot of information, what you need to stay present and ready to learn. Defining ACEs. What do you think when you hear ACEs? We are the product of our environments and our experiences. When those experiences are negative and potentially traumatic, they can have a big impact. I would like to share with you the ACE survey. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Survey is a 10-item questionnaire designed so that someone can create an ACE score. Some important things to know about the ACE survey. The survey is designed for adults to reflect on childhood experiences. The number of questions refer to the first 18 years of life. The survey is self-report and based upon affirmative answers. So every time there is a yes number, then that's a score. The ACE score is the total shown in the ACEs report participating. This score could be anywhere from 1 to 10. These 10 experiences were chosen by the original researchers because they were thought to be preventable. And these views, they're experiences that are predictable and are preventable. As you can see, each of the categories of these items fall into three categories: abuse, household challenges, and neglect. The items listed under abuse and neglect are direct experiences of the respondent in the landmark study, uncovered groundbreaking information. ACEs are common. So under abuse, there is emotional abuse, which is emotional abuse could be something that someone does or someone witnesses physically, emotionally to a family member or a friend or in the home. Another part of the household challenges could be something like domestic violence that a child has gone through. Doesn't necessarily have to be someone pushing or fighting, could be pushing, shoving. There's also emotional neglect. Emotional neglect could be something that where the child just doesn't feel like they're cared for, doesn't feel like they're valued. The original ACE study was conducted by the CDC in Kaiser Permanente in Southern California from 1995 through 1997. Used confidential surveys to connect children experiences to current health statuses and behavior. Over 17,000 participants discovered that ACEs are common and they are powerful. ACEs are common. 3 in 5 adults in South Carolina report experiencing at least one ACE as a child, which is about 60%. ACEs in South Carolina, as you can tell, the emotional abuse side of it is even higher than parental divorce or separation, but also noting that the lowest on that is parental incarceration and also sexual abuse. ACEs are powerful. As the number of ACEs increase, so does the risk of negative health outcomes. So as you can see, from 0 to 4, the more ACEs that you have, the more negative health outcomes you could have. This was the first emotional days was the highest reported previously and was parental divorce and separation. Possible outcomes. Possible outcomes, these are some examples of the potential long-term effects of ACEs. This is not a comprehensive nor, and remember that ACEs do not have a causal relationship with these outcomes. Lack of physical activity, smoking, alcoholism, substance, missed work, all of those things are outcomes that could have started when a child was very young. Physical and mental, severe obesity, which are some of the health outcomes that may happen, including diabetes or depression, suicidal thoughts, STIs, heart disease, cancer, stroke, COPD, broken bones. The ACE pyramid is a mechanism by which adverse childhood experiences influence health and well-being through the lifespan. As you can see, at the bottom it starts out with generational embodiment, historical trauma, then it goes into a social condition, then it goes up to adverse childhood experiences, disrupted neurodevelopment, social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, adoption of health risk behaviors, disease, disability, and social problems, and then leading to early death. Expanded ACEs, adverse experience that cause stress, can come from both sources, both inside the home and outside of the home. We know the 10 items in the ACE survey are not the only experiences that can impact child's health and well-being. Things like the pandemic, community violence, structural racism can also play a role. The takeaway here is that anything that can cause stress, particularly toxic stress, as we are about to cover, can be considered an adverse experience. Understanding the impact of ACEs. ACEs can derail healthy development due to the impact of toxic stress on the brain. This is Brain Builders. This is just a little short video to show you how the brain is impacted.
Modern science now tells us a great deal about how brains are built in childhood. Did you know that early childhood experiences actually change our brains in ways that affect our health throughout our lives?
We have a very kind of rich and rapidly growing science about early childhood development, and particularly how early experiences affect long-term outcomes in learning as well as physical and mental health. And we also have a huge amount of new research that is helping us understand how adversity early in life, and particularly the toxic stress that young children can experience, gets into the body and actually affects the developing architecture of the brain.
So, experiences we have in our earliest years affect how our brains get built. That's important because the basic structures we develop as infants lay the foundation for more complex structures that develop as we grow. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain to provide a sturdy base for a lifetime of better health. On the other hand, if a child experiences a pileup of negative experiences, such as abuse or neglect, and if no caregiver is there to provide support, a sturdy brain foundation may never develop. That can lead to lifelong learning difficulties and health problems, including addiction and mental illness.
It affects the cardiovascular system, it affects the immune system, and so what this science is telling us is that we ignore the early years at our peril.
It's amazing to think that the experiences we have in our earliest years can affect our health for a lifetime. Since strong societies are made up of healthy individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all kids have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need to build healthy brains and bodies.
Types of stress changes brain architect. This is not to say all stress is bad stress. Some stress can be useful. You can see here the different types of stress we may experience. What we can take away from this, our brains are built for survival and makes adaptations to accomplish that goal. When we experience something over and over again, the brain makes stronger neural connections between the stimulus and the response. Let's consider two extremes in experiences: a dangerous world versus a compassionate world, or only toxic stress versus positive stress. The brain is creating in the stress response system that fight, flight, or freeze response. If that response is consistently triggered, those connections become adaptations. For example, a child who has been physically abused at home may have learned to run at the sign of an adult raising their hands open-handed. When they are in a meeting at school and a new teacher comes in and the teacher goes to give them a high five, unfortunately, some children will run because they think that they're running to safety. Just as a child from a compassionate world can learn to meet expectations in a high stressful situation, a child from the dangerous world can learn to meet expectations in a calm and safe environment. These are the three types of stresses: positive, tolerable, and toxic. And they're very different, but they help to make us up. Dangerous and stressful versus compassionate and stressful. What is wrong with you? When we better understand the impact early life experiences can have on who we are, we can start to shift how we think about our interactions. Think back to the ACE pyramid. Instead of looking at someone with asthma and telling them to quit smoking, we can dig deeper into why they turned to smoking in the first place. Instead of reprimanding someone for not behaving the way we expect them to, we can dig deeper into the why they added. Resilience is building positive childhood experiences and protective factors. Everyone can build resilience, regardless of ACEs, PCEs, can prevent and reverse the effects of ACEs. The protective factor helps parents, caregivers build resilience while creating PCEs. Overcoming adversity. It can feel heavy to know the impact of ACEs when we look at how they can change us in a deep level. It may feel impossible to overcome. Using what we have learned about ACEs and brain development, we can build resilient children and families through positive childhood experiences and protective factors. This is the resilience scale. This image represents how we can be predisposed to resilience, but also how shifts can be made to build resilience through positive supports. We now see how each person is uniquely situated to interact with the world due to their experiences and adaptations. These impact how we build resilience. So building protective systems, so it starts out with the individual. So individually, we will build a protective system. We then build relationships that feel comfortable. And then we go out into the community and we socialize because we're comfortable in our churches, in our groups, in our schools. And then we go out into society. So we have all these different agencies that are also helping to build protective systems. Positive childhood experiences. One key way to build resilience is creating positive childhood experiences, and PCEs have been studied in a similar fashion to ACEs, and the outcomes have been encouraging. Positive childhood experiences are measured in a survey-style format similar to ACEs, and they reflect on and respond if they experience only one of the 7 identified PCEs, which is positive childhood experiences. So PCEs included as a child, so it could be just something as simple as feeling safe and protected by an adult that you live in the home with, or it could be feeling a sense of belonging at school, feeling supported by friends, feeling able to talk to family members about your feelings. Also, just having 2 non-parental adults who take time and care and interest in you can create positive experiences. Positive experiences in South Carolina, we still have a lot to learn from this research. We can see focusing on promoting positive experiences may prevent childhood adversity and help children and adults overcome the effects of ACEs, as ACEs may contribute to long-term health and well-being. It is important to advocate for programs and policies that support ACEs. Protective framework considers parental resilience, social connections, concrete support in times of need, knowledge of parenting and child development, social and emotional competence in children. If ACEs are common, we can expect that many parents have been affected or influenced by their own childhood adversity. These experiences may not only increase their risk of negative health outcomes, but it may also increase the risk of these parents abusing or neglecting their children. However, again, we can identify ways to prevent that from happening. And we want to shift now to a framework that promotes strong and healthy families regardless of the ACEs that they experienced. I have another short video I'd like for you to take a look at.
Childhood is a critical period of life. Those growing brains are working hard to make sense of each new moment and store things away for later. When a child experiences adversity, that critical development can be compromised in the moment and throughout their lives. Fortunately, just as adverse experiences can harm, positive experiences can heal and change the course of a child's life. Even one caring adult can help to create a safe and predictable environment, help a child to build coping skills, and foster resiliency. When adults are present in the moment, when we listen without judgment, and when we encourage natural curiosity, we can strengthen their sense of safety and well-being. Positive childhood experiences extend beyond the home too. Teachers, coaches, and friends who care are powerful protective forces. And don't underestimate the power of community and culture. Traditions, teams, and clubs can help build a healthy sense of self that lasts into a thriving adulthood. It's never too late to care for a child and help put them on the path to a healthy future.
application and resources, how this information can apply to your everyday life, and ways to continue to learn. What can you do? What everyday actions can you take to help strengthen children's capabilities and increase their resilience? With creating positive change in mind, take some time to consider what everyday actions you can build on in your everyday walk of life for protective factors. Thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate you.